global television network.
Chinese President Xi Jinping visits Wuhan and vows victory against COVID-19. 11 countries in Africa now have coronavirus cases as one patient dies in Morocco. And this day last year, Ethiopia marks 1 year anniversary of Boeing's 737 MAX 8 accident. Hello and welcome to Africa Live, only on CGTN. I'm Karen Roberts, live in Nairobi. Uche Okoronkwo joins me now with all your business headlines.
Thank you, Karen. And here's a look at what's coming up on Africa Live Biz. The African Airlines Association says carriers across the continent are running at a loss. And Sasol slumps by 46% as the oil price plummets due to failed talks between Russia and the OPEC alliance. Of course, all that coming up within the program. For now, it's back to you, Karen.
Thank you very much, Butcher. We begin in China, where President Xi Jinping has vowed victory in the war against COVID-19. He paid his first visit to Wuhan since the epidemic broke out there in December. CGTN's Tang Bo has more.
The commander-in-chief of China's battle visits the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak. Upon his arrival, President Xi Jinping headed straight to Huashengshan Hospital, Wuhan's first purpose-built hospital with 1,000 beds built from scratch in just 10 days. He met with medical workers who were among the tens of thousands who came to join the front lines in Wuhan.
You're all in protective gear in masks. I can't see your faces, but all of you are dear to my heart. So I'm here on behalf of the CPC Central Committee, expressing my sincerest and highest respect to each and every one of you.
He also learned about the treatment procedures for COVID-19 patients.
All you need to do is to be confident. We will win this war against the epidemic. Wuhan will win, Hubei will win, China will win as well.
She rallied residents in the Wuhan community to believe that they can defeat the epidemic.
The community has made great contributions to the war by stopping the spread of COVID-19. On behalf of the CPC Central Committee, we would like to express our sincere wishes and heartfelt gratitude to all of the community workers on the front line.
Wuhan is China's key city that was hardest hit by the outbreak, but the number of new cases have been falling, reaching a record low on Monday of just 19 new daily cases nationwide. When the epidemic was declared on January 20th, the president chaired meetings on epidemic control, scientific research, and measures to jumpstart the country's economy. Through more than 7 weeks of travel restrictions, an extensive lockdown, and hardship, China is seeing progress.
Efforts are paying off. Businesses are restoring operations, and life is gradually getting back to normal in cities across China. Tang Bo, CGTN, Wuhan, Hubei Province.
A very important political event. That's how Victor Gao, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization, describes President Xi's visit to Wuhan.
It has brought about a lot of confidence to the people in Wuhan, and also it inspired the military as well as civilian doctors and nurses who have been working in the forefront of the fight against the coronavirus. And from the very beginning, according to what we understand, from early January, President Xi Jinping has been personally leading this effort, mobilizing all the resources throughout China to fight against the coronavirus problem in Wuhan city as well as in Hubei province. For example, the mobilization of military doctors and nurses has played a very important role in this fight against the coronavirus. Therefore, this personal visit by President Xi Jinping is not only an inspiration to everyone involved in this important fight, but also it served as an affirmation of all the great gratitude of the Chinese people for all those people who have been working so tirelessly and so heroically in this fight against the coronavirus. I think this inspired every one of us, either in Wuhan or in other parts of China, that we need to continue to fight against the coronavirus until we achieve the final victory of this important fight against the coronavirus.
Now for more on the latest numbers of COVID-19 hit in China. The country has reported 29 new infections and 17 deaths. Most of them are in Hubei province, where the outbreak began in December. The country's total confirmed cases stands at close to 81,000. More than 70% have recovered, but at least 3,000 people have died. As the number of patients continues to drop in Wuhan, the city has closed all of its 16 public facility turned temporary hospitals, which received a total of more than 12,000 patients with mild symptoms. In the United States, a cruise ship that had been held off the coast of California after 21 people aboard tested positive for coronavirus will continue disembarking passengers at the port of Oakland. The Grand Princess cruise ship had 3,500 passengers and crew. Let's now get more from Mark Neo, joining us from the Port of Oakland, which is located in San Francisco Bay. Mark, have all the passengers left the cruise ship, and how is it all being handled?
That's right, Karen. Actually, you see the ship right behind me. There were 3,500 people on board, some trying days at sea. Latest report was down to about 2,000 people, so they've made some progress, but still quite a ways to go. Earlier estimates were saying they would be finished sometime tomorrow, but I've also heard estimates and people announce that they're trying to get it done today. So we'll see. It will definitely be done in the next 2 days. The priority has gone with those infected patients. There were 21 infected people on board. 19 of them were crew members. They were the top priority. So 23 people needed immediate medical attention, and they were already sent out first to local hospitals or medical facilities in California. Next up, they dealt with the Californians who are closer by. There were about 1,000 of them. They were sent to nearby Air Force Base in Travis Air Force Base, which is about an hour away. Some were also sent to San Diego. Out of state, U.S. residents were sent to Air Force bases in the state of Texas and also in the state of Georgia. And then the international passengers, they are working, there's about 54 countries involved here. They're working with all the governments to send them on chartered flights home. We know for one thing that at least 200 Canadians have been flown home. So all of those people, when they head to the air bases, the military stations, they have to be quarantined there for 14 days. So that's the sort of the chain of command and the way things are going right now, but down to about 2,000 people, Karen.
And Mark, the crew members, some of whom, as you say, are infected, they've been asked to stay on the ship, which is going to sail elsewhere to be quarantined further. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, the infected crew members, the ones that are infected, have been sent out to get immediate attention. But the other ones, and there's about a total of about 1,100 crew members that are aboard the ship, they're actually not coming off. They're going to stay on that ship. No details on where they're headed, but they're going to be quarantined on that ship. The state's governor, Gavin Newsom, has said that most of them are younger and relatively low risk, so that's why they're staying on the ship. And also, we do know that 11 crew members are from Chinese mainland. Reports are that they are in good health.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. That was Mark New for us there in Oakland in San Francisco in California. Well, African countries are continuing to report cases of COVID-19. The Democratic Republic of Congo has reported its first case, a Belgian citizen. Egypt so far has the highest number of confirmed cases. 59 cases have been reported, 26 of whom have recovered. At least one person in Egypt has died after contracting the virus. In Morocco, one patient has also died. The country has reported 3 confirmed cases. Algeria has 20 confirmed cases. In West Africa, Nigeria, Burkina Faso and Cameroon, Togo and Senegal have confirmed cases of COVID-19. South Africa and Tunisia have also reported cases of the coronavirus. To Egypt now, and the country's health ministry has announced that 25 of the 59 suspected cases from the Nile cruise ship have tested negative. The individuals have been placed on a 14-day quarantine to ensure the negative test results persist and no symptoms appear. CGTN's Adel El Mahrouhi has more.
Finally, some positive news about COVID-19 in Egypt. On Tuesday, Egyptian health minister says the number of patients who are testing positive for the virus is significantly decreasing.
Due to our precautionary measures, we've managed to detect the virus in 45 people on a Nile cruise. All of them had no symptoms. As of Tuesday, 25 of them tested negative for the virus.
The government says it has put 3 contingency plans to deal with the viral outbreak. Zaid indicated that the results of the ongoing checkups are making Egypt comfortable with only implementing Plan A.
We've decided to expand our investigation and have tested all the boats and hotels which surrounded that infected cruise ship. We've taken 585 samples in Luxor, and all of them are 100% free from the virus.
Zaid indicated that the results of the ongoing checkups are making Egypt comfortable with only implementing Precaution Plan A. Egypt was among the first 4 countries in the region to get COVID-19 detectors. On Wednesday, the country will receive the fast tests, which shows results after only 30 minutes. These new kits will be distributed in all ports to facilitate travel to the country. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Well, let's stay with Adel in Egypt. The country has cancelled dozens of conferences, concerts and festivals to counter the spread of COVID-19. The health ministry on Monday confirmed 4 new coronavirus cases, bringing the total to 59.
So far, the Egyptian government says all its COVID-19 cases have been traced. Taking additional measures against the possible spread of the virus, Cairo decided to suspend all large public events.
There's no time limit given to the suspension. The virus is not spread in an alarming way, but this is an additional precautionary measure to decrease mass travel from one city to another and therefore decrease the risk of spreading the virus.
Schools and universities have cancelled field trips. Similarly, all music concerts and conferences have been suspended, and even ongoing events like the Luxor African Film Festival have been cut short.
The government is ready to take additional measures if needed, like shutting down schools or prohibiting street wedding parties or other mass gatherings.
So far, no school has reported any coronavirus cases, and public transportation, including the metro, is still operating normally.
There is huge media awareness campaign Egypt is launching. In the metro, you can see people wearing masks. This is an unprecedented scene. People are worried about COVID-19. They fear its spread. There is really no alternative except protecting themselves and therefore their country.
Having an explanation for every single COVID-19 cases, the government says so far the situation is under control. Still, it is not taking any chances and is now working to diminish people interaction before it becomes too late. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
In Uganda, the health ministry has issued new directives for mass gatherings to control the spread of the coronavirus. Organisers are now required to provide adequate safety measures that will be inspected by teams from the Ministry of Health before allowing the event to continue. CGTN's Isabel Nakiria reports.
The Ministry of Health says events like football matches, prayer gatherings, weddings or political rallies must maintain minimum safety measures prior to the function. The government says big crowds can increase the risk of transmission of diseases like the coronavirus, and precautions need to be taken seriously. Event organizers are required to clean and disinfect the facility as frequently as possible. The safety measures will include placing hand-washing facilities and sanitizers at strategic positions for guests to easily access. Event planners have been cautioned to provide help desks with teams that will equip participants with relevant information about the coronavirus, including a standby ambulance for any emergencies. The safety measures follows a ban on handshakes and hugs and a stop on international conferences in the country. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Moving on to West Africa now, and the Nigerian government says one of the most important rail projects in the country could suffer delays as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. The project is being carried out by Chinese engineering firms. The head of the country's railway corporation says the completion date may be delayed. Here's CGTN's Deji Badmus with more on that story.
It's by far the most crucial rail project in Nigeria, linking the country's commercial capital of Lagos and its seaports to the southwestern city of Ibadan. When completed, the Lagos-Ibadan rail project is expected to help decongest the country's busiest seaport in Lagos and reduce the number of heavy-duty vehicles on its roads.
If we are able to complete it to the port and shippers can now load directly to the rail, I think it will affect the economy of Nigeria and the commerce of Nigeria. And most times the companies say they are waiting for raw material and spare parts. We get them delivered to time. And at the same time, what we are exporting can go to the port through the rail.
Nothing paints a more vivid picture of the current situation than this. An endless column of trucks trying to access the seaport in Lagos, mainly to deliver their cargoes for export. Most end up spending days routed towards port before making any movement. The rail project is expected to eliminate all of this. The government had fixed a deadline for the completion of the project for April, but the railway chief now says that may not be feasible because of the outbreak of COVID-19, which has kept a large number of its Chinese contractors away.
Unfortunately, it happened while they are away in China, and then people felt that it's better to keep them there to wait the outcome at the end of the virus before they can come back. So as a result, most of the technical people are presently not in Nigeria.
But work has not completely stopped on the project. The few Chinese contractors who did not travel are actually still working, but the labor on site has significantly reduced.
Even the locomotive and coaches that were brought in, we could not organize the commissioning and training because the manufacturers are yet to come. Those that were around that did not travel, we are still working with them. Although most time now, even from their own side, they have sent email that for now it's better we interact on phone and email than making direct contact, which makes sense.
For now, it's not known how significantly the delay will impact on the full takeoff of the rail service. The Nigerian Railway Corporation has begun a test run on the tracks that have been completed. But regardless of the delay, the Nigerian government will still eventually get its signature project, the 156-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line. Deji Badmus, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
People across the world have commended the unity of the Chinese government and the people of China on their handling of the coronavirus outbreak. One such person is Ghanaian biomedical scientist Seth Agyemang, who works in Kolebu Teaching Hospital in the capital, Accra. Seth says that he's been inspired by the Chinese people and its frontline health workers.
what we could copy from China is their patriotism and their spirit of volunteerism. They are not greedy, they are not selfish. Everybody is on deck, everyone, president, everyone is on deck to contain this virus. Maybe I meet the person, I'm sure I'll get down and salute the person for being that brave to even face a patient. You know the patient has a coronavirus and you can easily pick it, because as health workers, you will need to support the patients. So if I should meet any of them, I'm sure I'll get up and salute the person.
We're going to a short break now. Don't go away. Lots more to come, including... This time last year, Ethiopia marks 1 year anniversary of Boeing 737 MAX 8 accident. And South Sudan peace. Residents react to delay in filling ministerial slots. The South Sudanese transitional government now has 5 vice presidents, but none of its ministerial roles have been filled. Stakeholders in the peace deal have also failed to agree on a list of members of parliament to fill positions in the transitional legislative body. CGTN's Patrick Oyet found out how residents of the capital Juba are reacting to the latest developments.
The new unity administration in South Sudan has only President Salva Kiir and his 5 deputies for now. The 2018 peace deal provides for appointment of ministers, members of parliament and state governors from all parties signatory to the agreement. Now, the parties are disagreeing on allocation of positions. The United Nations mission in South Sudan says it is now concerned over the delay in appointing the government officials.
The absence of authority at the state level has caused a vacuum of power and decision-making, as we have seen in Jonglei, emboldening those involved in recent violence and intercommunal clashes.
The United Nations says violence in the eastern part of the country in Jonglei State has now displaced 8,000 people. Residents of South Sudan's capital, Juba, are reacting to the delay in appointment of ministers and other local government officials.
In my view, our government should hurry up with the formation of the ministers so that people will return back to home. And our refugees are really waiting for this formation of ministers so that they will see the changes and they come back to their nation.
We are not happy. Every evening we go home and sit to listen to the radio, hoping to hear about appointment of ministers, but there is nothing. The government should complete this process.
We have been waiting for this peace for a long time to come now. We can wait a little bit for this process to be complete.
The United Nations is calling on members of the international community to support the South Sudan's peace process. The UN says security sector reforms scheduled to be carried out by the new government is lagging behind as the parties continue to disagree on the allocation of positions. It further says many armed groups continue to operate in a vacuum, which can easily lead to clashes and returning the country to civil war. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Tuesday marks 1 year since the crash of an Ethiopian Airlines 737 MAX that triggered the worst crisis in Boeing's history. Flight 302 crashed shortly after takeoff, killing all 157 passengers on board. In the United States, a draft report blamed the plane's design for the disaster. A similar plane belonging to Lion Air crashed months before in Indonesia, leaving 189 people dead. These 2 crashes have had a negative impact on one of the world's biggest airline companies. as the plane has been grounded globally. The company has since then recorded billions in losses. To mark the anniversary, a village near to the crash site in Ethiopia held a memorial in honour of the victims that died. Well, as Ethiopia marks 1 year since the crash of the Boeing 737 MAX, CGTN's Daniel Arapmoy takes us back to that fateful day.
March 10th, 2019 started out like many other mid-March days in Ethiopia, but as the day unfolded, it proved to be anything but ordinary. On this day, the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft, which operated the flight, crashed near the town of Bishoftu 6 minutes after takeoff, killing all the 157 people aboard. March 10th marks the first anniversary of Ethiopian airline crash. Gadisa Benti was an eyewitness who saw smoke billowing up the sky after the plane went down. The crash sparked a chain of events that would later cripple one of the world's biggest companies.
We have taken the right decision to ground the airplane, and the fact that we have taken that right decision was endorsed by the entire world, because we cannot put even a single life at risk.
Boeing is an incredible company. They are working very, very hard right now. And hopefully they'll very quickly come up with the answer. But until they do, the planes are grounded.
Relatives couldn't grasp the fact that their loved ones were dead. Many were burned beyond recognition and had to be identified through DNA. It was the second crash in 5 months by the new Boeing 737 MAX after a Lion Air crash in Indonesia killed 189 people when it nosedived into the sea. Preliminary report released by the Ethiopian Civil Aviation Authority revealed that faulty sensor readings and multiple automatic commands to push down the nose of the Boeing aircraft contributed to the fatal crash that left the crew struggling to regain control. The plane, once Boeing's fastest sailing jet, has been grounded globally since mid-March, costing the plane maker nearly $19 billion. Boeing is also facing numerous probes into the development of the aircraft by regulators, U.S. lawmakers, and the Department of Justice. Daniel Arapmoy, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
Tunisia will see the launch of the African Women Leaders Network this June. The initiative is backed by the United Nations and the African Union. CGTN's Adnan Shawashi attended the pre-launch meeting to find out more.
The African Women Leaders Network Tunisia, which is the 7th of its kind after the creation of 6 similar networks in other African countries, notably Congo, Seychelles and Morocco.
This network contributes to the development of the African continent by focusing on women's growing role in the social, economic, political and educational fields. We want to reinforce women's rights and presence in the decision-making process.
Participants pointed out the need to take advantage of the diversity of experiences of African women leaders belonging to this network in order to further consolidate women's role in societies and combat discrimination against women.
This platform enables African women leaders to work together in one space and to focus on good governance in their different countries and to get involved in their development. African women are a real richness with their demographic force to reach a qualitative and quantitative change.
The representative of UN Women Tunisia Libya indicated that a strategy will be devised shortly to define the components of this continental network, its program and working method.
And every country now is doing their own chapter. So now we have around 12 chapters in Africa, in each country, where you can find women's leaders in the political world, in the government, public administration, private sector, civil society, culture, rural areas, etc., and specifically young women.
On the occasion of International Women's Day, a women's entrepreneurship promotion program was launched in Tunis. The initiative will help create over 4,400 projects in many fields, with a total budget of around $10.5 million. The African Women Leaders Network aims to reinforce communication and sharing of successful experiences among women leaders in Africa, particularly in sustainable development, peace and stability fields, in line with the objectives of the UN Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Let's now go to Ucha for all the latest business news. Over to you.
Thanks, Karen. And coming up on Africa Live Biz. The African Airlines Association says carriers across the continent are running at a loss. And Sasol slumps by 46% as oil prices plummet due to failed talks between Russia and the OPEC alliance.
Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. The difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Well, let's start off with Africa's aviation industry. The sector has been through some ups and downs in the last 10 years. The industry has seen a series of African airlines depreciate financially. Now, the African Airlines Association says a high-cost environment is amongst the reasons for the poor financial performance.
The financial situation of African Airlines is not very good today. African Airlines, these are figures of 2018. African Airlines are losing a $6.85 US per passenger carried. Worldwide, airlines are making profit of $6.85 US per passenger carried. And in Africa, per passenger carried, we are losing $1.09 US. African airlines are operating in a high-cost environment. The cost of fuel, for example, is very high in Africa. It's 30 to 35% higher than the rest of the world. And if you consider that the fuel represents 30 to 40% of an airline's operating cost, you can understand the high-cost operation for our airlines. African airlines are also facing a high level of taxes levied by government on the air transport sector. And also you can see that the traffic is very thin in Africa for many reasons. Air transport, because of high cost, is not affordable for African citizens.
Now to some corporate headlines. Sasol had its worst day on the JSE on Monday when a dramatic slide in oil prices wiped out nearly $3 billion from its market value. Now, the chemicals and petroleum firm saw its share price drop by 46% to about $5, the lowest it has been since 2003. Sasol's share price meltdown also came just days after Moody's cut its ratings from debt to junk. Sasol's Mega Lake Charles project in the U.S. has burdened the firm with high borrowing rates. Now, the project is meant to transform Sasol into a large global chemical player and cut its reliance on fuel. However, it has left investors disappointed due to numerous delays and budget overruns. In the meantime, South Africa's Competition Commission has announced that network giant Vodacom will reduce monthly data prices by at least 30%. This will be effective from next month. Now, Vodacom has also agreed to zero-rate a number of websites. This means that its subscribers won't have to use their internet bundles to access university portals, Wikipedia, and certain government e-service portals, as well as departmental websites. The
The Commission watchdog had been tough on companies it says are charging excessive prices for data. Last December, it recommended the network giant to reduce data prices or face prosecution after it found that data prices in South Africa were the highest on the continent. Now, global stock markets posted their steepest fall since the 2008 financial crisis on Monday. The events that sparked the panic were the result of a clash between Saudi Arabia and Russia over what to do about oil prices, which of course have been tumbling due to the ongoing COVID-19 epidemic. Here's CGTN's John Terrett with more from New York.
The story of the Monday session is that we had no idea how far down the Dow and the S&P 500 would open after the futures markets were frozen overnight. In the end, when 9:30 local time came, the Dow was down 1,800 points in pretty short order. That's 7%. The S&P 500 was down by 7% as well. That triggered an immediate stop down. For 15 minutes, the market trading was suspended. The first time in a very long time that has happened, and the first time ever under new stock exchange rules. When the market came back up, it fell a little bit more, but then stabilized to be down around 1,200 points. But towards the end of the day, it moved towards 2,000 points down. And the reason is COVID-19 appears to be spreading. People in New York taking it much more seriously now after a couple of serious news conferences over the weekend from the governor of the state and the mayor of New York City. And of course, the good old-fashioned 1970s-style oil shock with Russia and Saudi Arabia clearly not on the same page regarding production cuts. That was enough to bring crude oil down to around $31 a barrel, the lowest it's been since 1991, and you put those two things together and you have very, very severe pressure on the US markets. Here are the numbers. The Dow down 7.8% at the end of the session, NASDAQ 7.2, S&P 500 down by 7.6. The Dow is around 23,000.8 now, and this was the biggest one-day point drop ever, 2,013 points.
Well, let's head to Uganda now. The country has given China's National Offshore Oil Corporation an environmental clean bill of health to proceed with drilling and infrastructure construction work near Lake Albert. Now, CNOOC is one of the companies licensed to develop the Kingfisher oil fields in western Uganda. It plans to pump as much as 40,000 barrels a day of crude from that field. With more on this, here's CGTN's Isabel Nakiria.
The Environment Impact Assessment Certificate will now enable CNOOC to construct oil drilling platforms and crude oil pipelines along the shores of Lake Albert. However, Uganda's environment body says despite a clean environment bill passed to CNOOC, more care needs to be taken to avoid the destruction of the environment. Any oil spillage could threaten natural resources like fish or wetlands.
The pipeline construction is restricted to a certain air clearance area only. And after that, they have to reinstate it to before. And that, from the general ecological science, allows the biodiversity to record rise very, very fast.
CNOOC, the French oil firm Total, and British multinational Tullow are planning to extract about 6.5 billion barrels of oil from the Ugandan reserve.
The National Environment Body says the oil companies should keenly follow the conditions set, warning that poor handling of oil waste could cause serious implications on the environment if not adhered to.
China's CNOOC says the environment certificate is a positive step towards the development of the oil and gas industry in the country.
I believe this major milestone will definitely facilitate the whole process to see the first oil.
Uganda discovered oil in 2006, but production is yet to begin. The delays follow multiple disagreements between the government and oil companies over tax payments and revenue sharing. However, the negotiations are ongoing and all parties are expected to reach a final investment decision by the end of this month. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Now, China's Jinping Group has completed its takeover of British Steel, which could save over 3,000 jobs in the UK. The firm reportedly offered $65 million to buy the company after it collapsed. It was placed under the control of the UK Insolvency Service last year. With the details, here's CGTN's Andrew Wilson.
The ceremony's over and the deal is finally done. It's taken a while, but China's multi-industrial conglomerate Jinping has now taken the reins at British Steel in the UK. The early promises are about partnership and global reach.
The purchase of British Steel, as far as Jinping is concerned, is about the group going global. Previously, our business was exporting steel from China. Now we want to have a production base in this market to serve the local market there.
British Steel is really connect a lot of people. It really touched the very soft part of local people. And I think I told Jinping people, it's also very important to live up to your social responsibility. You know, it's not only about business. It's not only about profit. It's about culture. You know, to learn from each other.
Jinping has long been interested in Scunthorpe's capabilities for high-quality rail track and girder production, so-called long steel, something the Chinese company does not manufacture at home. For workers and unions, it's been a difficult wait. Life has gone on under an anxious cloud here in Scunthorpe and on Teesside since British Steel threw in the towel in May last year. Every day, staff have been coming in to do their jobs without any certainty over whether or not there would be the remotest possibility for full-time work down the line. As it stands, Jinping has offered 3,200 staff renewed contracts, 100 have been found other work, and 400 have received redundancy letters, all coming into effect this week. Relief for some, disappointment for others.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Everybody's over the moon, we're keeping the jobs, and unfortunately not everybody has, but obviously feel for them as well. But yeah, it's good news for Scunthorpe, isn't it? And the people, obviously all the businesses that's connected with the company.
I myself was one of the many people what was looking at their emails, waiting, and then to see that, I'm sorry, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to offer you a contract.
The real prize is the figure of $1.5 billion in future investment, a promise that's been questioned enough times, but still seems to be part of the plan. One issue was British Steel's French operation that the government in Paris doesn't want to sell. It was feared to be a deal breaker. Clearly, that wasn't the case. Andrew Wilson, CGTN, Scunthorpe.
Well, that's all for now on Africa Live Biz, but coming up later on Global Business Africa, Nigeria plans to cut its record $34.6 billion 2020 budget due to a drop in oil prices. We'll bring you more on that top of the hour. For now, back to you, Karen.
Thank you very much, Ucha. We are going to a short break now. Don't go away, lots more to come, including a group of Egyptian artists and mechanics create a massive piece of art using spare car parts.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
A group of Egyptian artists and mechanics have taken spare parts and turned them into a breathtaking piece of art. The group gathered their materials from one of Cairo's lower income communities. They were able to create a statue weighing in at nearly half a ton. CGTN's Adel El Makhrouhi has more.
On the outskirts of Greater Cairo, in Marioteya,
A striking statue breaks the plain landscape of this area. Made out of scraps of cars' spare parts, a team of Egyptians have spent 30 days carefully assembling these pieces together.
We wanted to elevate cultural education and raise awareness among people that from waste we can create value.
Ahmed and his colleague Ibrahim decided to build a grand statue mimicking the ancient Egyptian cat goddess Bastet, which despite her fame never had a grand statue that suits her great status as protector from disease and evil spirits. The 6 meters long statue consumed some 3,000 pieces of rounded parts, all hunted from junk collectors.
The cost was a burden. Collecting the material was even harder. We kept looking for the junk spare parts we need. We have even traveled to many governorships to find what we need.
The ancient cat is still a work in progress. It weighs about 450 kilograms. Location View team hopes their artwork could inspire officials to decorate the streets with similar pieces.
It was a rough start. We couldn't make the shape as accurate as we wanted, but it's getting better. We decided to make a big statue, hoping that the government can support us so that we can implement this art in many squares.
This statue reflects the hope these simple artists have to create an inspiration for residents here and for their country to pursue creating art out of waste. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Now to Cote d'Ivoire, over 5,000 people have walked through the capital's central business district in a show of solidarity with China as it fights the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. Both Ivorians and Chinese took part in the event, an hour-long 3-kilometre walk through the district of Plateau. The country's Minister of Sports kicked off the walk, and the Chinese ambassador to Cote d'Ivoire was among those participating. The event was hosted by the Ivorian Federation of Hiking and Well-Being for All.
It is in difficulties that one recognizes true friends. At this crucial time when China is making every effort to counter the coronavirus epidemic, the international community, the government, and the people of Cote d'Ivoire have given us sincere and high-level support. China is deeply grateful for that support and will never forget it.
We wanted to show our solidarity to China and to let them know that they are not alone. The whole of Cote d'Ivoire supports China in its fight against this disease that is wreaking havoc in the world, and particularly in China. Through this activity, we want to tell China that we are wholeheartedly supporting them.
All of the sports news coming up for you after the break, including Kenya counts the global impact of the coronavirus outbreak on the local sports scene.
How would you create your legend?